Hi, Pete's fans. Welcome to another episode of For Pete's Sake. I am your co-host, Josh Reeser. Unfortunately, my twin brother was unavailable for today. He is out at a work event, could not make this week's episode. So we are going to save our recap of last week's games for next week's day. And it was not a pretty week. Spoiler alert for those of you that follow the Pete's. It was a very deflating week after a week of such highs. In the meantime, I have a special interview again for you. I was able to sit down and interview current color commentator on the radio 90.5 Freak FM, Chris Hardill. He is a former OHL goalie, the current color commentator, like I said, and an absolute goalie nerd. I had the chance to chat with him about his journey through the OHL. He played suited up for 3 teams. I had a chance to talk about his broadcasting career, as well as the state of the current Pete's. And for fun, I dove into his brain of goalie knowledge and tried to see if I could out-trivia him. And I did not make out very well. This guy is an absolute chest of knowledge regarding all things goalie. So very interesting chat with him. Super nice guy. He gave me a lot of time, about an hour and a half worth. So we'll have that interview for you for this week. And then going forward, we'll have a recap. Our recap will be added to next week's episode when Matt is back. So sit back and enjoy listening to this episode with Chris Hardill. Hope you enjoy. All right, fans, we are very privileged to welcome another guest interview to our show. Today we have the current color commentator on the radio for the Peterborough Petes, former OHL goalie that spent time with the Barrie Colts, Kingston Frontenacs, and Ottawa 67s as well. And he has a reputation as a goalie nerd. It is Chris Hardill. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. I'm excited to pick your brain and talk hockey and talk to a goalie. So first of all, thanks for joining us, and also just a thank you for what you do on the radio. I know it's a important job to bring the game to life, and especially when you can't actually physically see it because you're in a car or you're listening at home or whatever. It's a very, very important and necessary job you guys do to bring fans to the Petes and keep fans along the way. I grew up listening to the radio, and I know a lot of people that listen currently. So thank you for what you do, and you do an excellent job on the game broadcasts.
Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate you having me. Of course, I love talking hockey anytime, 24/7 it seems. I know my wife can attest to that. So I really appreciate you bringing me on. And again, happy to talk about the Petes, the NHL, the OHL, whatever you'd like. So thanks again for providing the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, let's start with you. Let's go with your background in hockey. I mentioned, you're a goalie, spent some time in the OHL. So tell us about your background in hockey. What's like your earliest memory of hockey? As a fan, were you watching it on TV, listening on the radio, and then how did that morph into you playing?
So I grew up in Bridgenorth, Ontario, and basically fell in love with the game at probably 4 or 5 years of age. I was very fortunate. My dad took me to several games at Maple Leaf Gardens, fell in love with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, attended numerous games at the Peterborough Memorial Centre back in the days of, I'm going to age him, but Andrew Werner was the goalie.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously that parlayed into Zach Burke and the cameraman Langerbrunner era.
Yeah.
Enjoyed going down to watch the Petes, and really fell in love with the game from a young age. Always made it my dream to play in the OHL, and then from there, if I was able to play pro, that would have been great. That obviously wasn't in the cards, but the OHL is a great level of hockey. Had tons of fun with it. Wish I could have played a little bit more, yes. However, met lots of good people that I've kept in touch with over the years, and then parlayed it into a year of doing a little bit of scouting, actually with the London Knights and goalie scouting back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I was with the Ottawa 67s, I took a little bit of sports broadcasting at Algonquin College. Kind of put it to the side for a little bit, and had some friends that said you should get into it. 2019, ended up jumping into some TV games on your TV in Peterborough with the Petes, and then back in the OHL championship season, jumped in with Stu Kernan once Katrina Squazin had left as color commentator to join Sportsnet. So
Right on.
very fortunate, jumped in, and what a year to jump in. It was an up and down season. It looked like things were going south for a while, and all of a sudden the Petes recovered and, of course, went on a heck of a run and calling an OHL championship alongside Stu Kernan, a good friend of mine now. It was truly spectacular, and taking in games down in London at the Budweiser Gardens with 9,000 fans yelling and screaming,
Yeah.
and hearers. It was truly awesome. So I got to thank a lot of people in Peterborough for the support. And I have a lot of fun preparing for each game. There's no question about that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, going down to the Gardens to watch some games early on. So is that safe to assume you're a Leafs fan there?
I am a diehard Toronto Maple Leafs fan ever since the days of
Okay.
Alan Bester and Jeff Reese, and the list
Yeah.
goes on. My dad took me, put the jersey on, and the Maple Leaf Gardens. I would do anything to go and skate on that ice again. Obviously, it looks a little bit different now with one of the university clubs playing there, but it was, my fondest memories. Spending time with your family, with your parents, with your father is something you always cherish. So naturally, I fell in love with the team. I'm used to a lot of pain and suffering being a Leaf fan, but you know what? They're rolling along pretty nicely right now, but
Absolutely.
Dolars and Wall combination can lead them to some playoff success.
For sure. Well, full disclosure, I'm an Ottawa Senators guy,
Oh boy,
so I'm used to even more pain and suffering, especially recently. So,
yes.
yeah, a lot of people ask, why I have a beer every now and then, and it's usually something to do with the big loss by the Ottawa Senators. So, hopefully, I can have a beer celebrating a victory or maybe even a playoff berth at some point. But I've been waiting a while now. So,
Well,
yeah.
we were in Ottawa recently, actually, and I was fortunate. My little guy, he's 8 years old, and one thing I can say, I was super impressed with Linus Allmark, the starting goaltender there. Little guy got to meet him and actually took him into the room, gave him
Yeah.
some advice, had a real good conversation with him on different life skills and whatnot. So, although I'm a Leaf fan, I'm definitely cheering for Linus Allmark.
Very good, very good. So when you started hockey as a kid, was it I want to be a goalie right away? Was it, I started as a player and then they needed a goalie and I tried it and it stuck? Like what was the draw to being a goalie?
Well, for me, I think it was the equipment and the mask. I always loved looking at the old,
Yes.
or Jeff Hackett with the Blackhawks had a good one. Brian
Yeah.
Edward with the Sharks, Felix Potvins. So for me, I started as a player because I still think it's important for young kids to learn the skating aspect of the game,
Hmm.
uh, but always wanted to play goal. So I started basically at the bottom, worked my way through the levels, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think sometimes kids, when they're 7 and 8, if they're the best player on the ice, they think, yeah, you know what, I can do this rather easy and I don't have to try as hard. Where I grinded it out, kept getting better. By the time I was 16, I was 6'4", probably about 190 pounds, and then I was getting some attention for the OHL draft. And I was fortunate that the Barrie Colts took me in the middle of the draft that year. Didn't spend a lot of time with Barrie, 6 games, but ended up in Kingston and then in Ottawa. And not being obviously not a Sens fan, being a big Leafs fan, but I have nothing but incredible things to say about the 67s organization with Brian Kilray at the time. There was 10,000 fans, most games, led the CHL in attendance that year,
Hmm.
flew to games in the playoffs. I can remember flying to games in Kitchener and St. Mike's. And for a guy that didn't go on and get a taste of professional hockey, that was basically, in all honesty, a taste of it. It was incredible.
Right. Yeah.
First class organization with incredible people. So I still love going to the city of Ottawa and bringing back those memories.
Yeah, well, I was going to actually ask you, you got to play for a legend and, Brian Killer Kilray and, is he as intimidating as they say? And what was it like to play for an absolute, legend of the game? I know he obviously had great success and was there for a long time, so he's got to know what he's doing. And can you attest to that firsthand?
I would say Brian Kilray, in my mind, is the best coach that I've ever seen in hockey history. He is an incredible person, incredible human being. I actually sent him a card there over Christmas and just got one, I think, 2 days ago back in the mail from him and his wife, Judy, wishing me well. And
Oh,
said that
very
he
cool.
kind of concluded his scouting with the 67s. He's 90 years of age now, hard to believe.
Yeah.
but he was fair. He was a gentleman. I remember playing with Kingston. I could hear him barking on the bench and looking over, going, "Wow, that guy looks scary." And he's actually quite the opposite. He's a caring individual that wanted the best for his young players, and and also was so good at cracking those one-liners. I think it was Sean Donovan that played for Ottawa, 67s and then the World Juniors as well. And I think it was Donovan that Brian Kilrea was giving it to him one time in the dressing room and said, "I'm not sure if you're playing left wing for them or right wing for us." So I thought that was one of the best hockey chirps I've ever heard. But Brian Kilrea, I mean, I was part of the 1,000th victory when he won that game against Bert Templeton and Sudbury Wolves.
Yeah.
And the building was absolute chaos with 10,000 yelling fans. And to be a part of that, I didn't play in the game. I was backing up, which I did a lot of. But that was a spectacular day, and I could go on all day about Brian Kilrea and my respect for that man. So he's a Hockey Hall of Fame and inductee, and that's exactly what
Absolutely. For sure, for sure. Very good, very good. So along the way, growing up, you're a goalie. You decide you want to be a goalie. Is there a specific guy you modeled your game after, or you looked up to and you said, if everything goes according to plan, I want to be this guy?
Yeah, for me it was Felix Potvin that I fell in love with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I realized that I had good size, so I started looking at guys like Roberto Luongo, big goalie that moved incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of the other guys. I actually liked Andy Moog a lot. He was smaller in stature with the Bruins back in the day, but had
Yep.
ferocious Bruin on his mask. So I think I really kind of fell for him. But any of the Leaf goalies, Curtis Joseph, Ed Belfour, Ron Tugnan, former Senators goalie, was a good friend
Yep.
of my dad, of course, a former Peterborough Pete. So uh,
Mm-hmm.
Ron was instrumental actually in getting my first set of Vaughn pads back when I was about 10 years old. They were basically the same as his Anaheim Ducks pads, and when I opened the box at home, that was my favorite Christmas gift I think I ever got. Right, your first set of pads. So there's lots of players, but I look at the NHL now, and I love like Jay Gott and Jurelius Sorokin. These guys are so good. They're so quick. The
Mm-hmm.
way everybody shoots the puck. You remember the days of Al McInnes and Brad Hall blasting it. Well, now everybody blasts the puck, and the way
Yeah.
that guys move side to side, it's a real art. They break it down like a golf swing, and these guys are so
Yeah.
impressive.
Oh, and then on top of that, it seems like every year, every other year, they're making their pad size smaller to try and increase goal scoring in the league. So it's hard enough to stop these pro shots coming at you, and now they're saying, "Oh, well, your pads actually have to be smaller and thinner." And good luck out there. So I'm sure that's not a popular time of year for the goalies.
Well, you look back at Garth Snow, right, years ago.
Yeah.
He, of course, had the massive shoulder pads and everything. And then I know they kept saying we got to make the gear a bit smaller. And at the same time, I think the argument can be made that if you make the gear smaller, it actually gives the goalies maybe a little bit more ability. I think guys did get carried away with, the huge shoulder pads, the teeter on their pants, and they're, down by the skates and whatnot. But you look at these guys, they're athletic. The way they move is incredible. I actually talked to Philip Grubauer a few years ago with the Seattle Kraken up in Ottawa. And he said that the only thing about it is it's really hard on the body. So that you see a lot of guys now with hip surgery, Matt Murray, Robin,
Yeah. Yeah.
the torque on the hips and the knees and stuff's a lot. But the
Mm.
way they play the position, it makes sense. You see them slide over and they're right there. These guys are incredible, but you're right. They keep trying to make the equipment smaller. And for me, I love watching a 1-0 hockey game. There's absolutely nothing better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get some big saves. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, how did you approach? It's such a tough position. I can't say I had much experience playing goalie. I just, I know it's a lot of pressure. I think I played one game of goalie back in Tyke when everyone had to take their turn, and we didn't win. We lost quite a lopsided game. So I think the coach said, our best bet for winning is not to have Josh in net, which is fair enough. But it's there's such a mental side to the game where you have to there's so much pressure on you to be the last line of defense, and tough stretches are going to happen even to the greats, and you have to be able to shake it off, but also have that hunger, to let it drive you a bit crazy in order to get better. So, can you speak to the mental side of being a goalie in your career? How did you manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can say with confidence when things were going really well. When I was playing in Ottawa, my confidence was at an all-time high for my entire career. I wasn't playing a lot, but when I got in, I found I was playing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be in there. I remember playing the OHL finals in Kitchener, and I was watching most of the games from row number one. Um, but I was just begging to get in there because I felt confident. And I was a team with Mike Richards, Derek Roy, Steve Eminger, a very, very deep hockey club, but
Yeah.
wanted to be in there. And that talks to the mental aspect of the position. And I've also experienced it where you're struggling and it can be really challenging. So I've always said, when you look in the Ontario Hockey League, you'll see a lot of guys that have similar capabilities physically, but what separates them is that mental strength. So I look back in my era, one of the best actually was Ray Emery, uh,
Mm.
played up with the Sioux Greyhounds, and he had a swagger to him. There's no question about it,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a tough customer, no question about that. But you could just see that confidence that he exuded, and it's big. It's big. Goaltending is such a big part of the game. I remember somebody said to me one time that hockey is 90% goaltending. Unless you don't have one, then it's 100.
That is 100. Yep. Yep.
So you think about it, you can see a really good team with a goalie that's struggling, that's not going to find their way through the playoffs. And then we've seen it with, I go back to the 2004 Calgary Flames with Mika Kiprasov, really hardworking hockey club that really relied on him and Jerome Iginla, of course, up front. But Kipper was absolutely sensational. Took them within one game of winning the Stanley Cup, losing in Game 7 to Tampa Bay. So it's a
Yeah.
position like a quarterback in football or a pitcher in baseball. But the thing you love about it is after playing a great game, there's no better feeling, right? You know you had a big part in the victory, but at the same time, you got to be prepared that you may have a big part in the loss as well. So you got to put that aside and say you give up 6 one night. Can you come back the next night and shut the door? And that's it's tough. I admire goalies at all levels nowadays because it's not an easy assignment.
Absolutely. Now, the goalies do have a reputation for being a bit strange, being the odd bird in the dressing room, perhaps, maybe a bit eccentric. There's the saying, you got to be a bit weird to let other teams' forwards come in and fire, a rubber puck at you, however fast they can shoot. So, just your thoughts on that? As a goalie and being around other goalies, is that accurate in your opinion? And then is that is that a slight, or is that a badge of honor? Do you wear that as kind of a point of pride because there's nothing wrong being weird?
Well, you know what? I've always said that the players are the weird ones, and I've said it
Yeah.
on you many times. So, when you think about it, when you're in goal, you got a lot of equipment on. You're fairly well protected, right? So you'll get the odd puck that maybe finds your knee or up in the shoulder area. But I look at the players and think, who's the crazy one? You got these guys standing there blocking, or they're trying to screen a goalie, and you got an Austin Matthews that's firing the puck. It might get deflected, come up into their face, hit them in the teeth. So I think the question is, who's the crazy one? I don't think it's me wearing all that gear. I that guy, or you're racing for an icing or a loose puck, and all of a sudden, 6 feet from the boards, somebody clips your foot, and you go crashing headfirst into the boards, right? So, for me, facing pucks again when you're confident and you're feeling the groove, you know what? Have at it, step into it, give me your best shot. You don't think anything of it whatsoever. You go down, you try to make the save, right? So, for me, it was the players. And you look at some of these tough guys. You look at Jake McCabe, actually, the other night, unfortunate injury, where he goes down in a fight and then looked a little wobbly and a little bit reminiscent of John Tavares a few years ago. And I hate seeing
Mhm.
so. I think goalie's a fairly safe position for the most part, and yeah, some can be quirky, a little bit different, but it's a special union, and everybody, you play against the opposition, but at the same time, you respect the guy at the other end, and you'll see that on occasion. I think it was Mason Vicari, the Frontenacs, that gave young Mason Johnson a tap on the pads after the game down to Kingston, and
Yeah.
Johnson played fabulous. He made some great saves in overtime, and it was good to see a veteran goalie, acknowledge a young rookie just coming into the league.
For sure, absolutely. So back to your time, OHL. You spent time with Barrie, Kingston, Ottawa, like you said. Were there specific players that um, they either, I don't know if had your number is the right word, or like they come down and you're like, oh man, I know this guy's got a shot, or this guy's a finisher. I really need to be aware when this guy's on the ice. Any standouts you played against you can remember?
Well, one guy I really remember as being a fabulous talent was up in the Sioux with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Ended up winning, I know one cup at least with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It might have even been two, but was Trevor Daly. Uh,
Mm.
really smooth skating defenseman. And I actually had some good luck against him. I remember playing them game up in the Sioux, made some big saves on him. But he was a pleasure to watch from the net, which is sounds crazy, but you could see him coming from a mile away and his skating ability was just that much better than anybody else's. So he would make his way through traffic and then get a good shot on goal. But he was a special player. Another guy that I really thought was fantastic in the OHL was Kyle Wellwood, who went on to play
Mm.
for the Leafs
Yeah.
for a
Yep.
little bit. But he was a smaller guy, had unbelievable hands, shifty, super creative. Jamie Johnson from the Oshawa Generals back in the Nathan Horton era and Ben
Hmm.
Eager. They had some
Hmm.
teams with some big players. Jamie Johnson would park himself beside the net and wait for that pass to either shoot it or send it to somebody cross crease. And he was a shifty, creative player too. So I was always cognizant of him being in the area, and just one of those guys where you're going, yeah, if I'm not on my game here, he probably can make me look a little bit foolish.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hopefully you got the better of them more often. They got the better of you. That's the especially those Oshawa Generals players. I hope you shut them down and humiliated them, and were ultimately the reason for driving them out of the game.
Now, you don't
Yeah.
play Generals wearing that attire there, I can say that.
All right. You mentioned a bit your transition to broadcasting. So you say you took a course, and it was while you were with the 67s, yeah? And that was just Algonquin College in Ottawa, or where
Yeah,
was that?
so I wanted to keep busy, obviously doing something, and education's huge, and I would sell that on young players nowadays. You got to think of the alternatives, right? If and it's
Yeah.
those guys all, I get it. They're all thinking, I'm going to go on, I'm going to make money, I'm going to play professional hockey, and that's part of the reason that they're playing in the OHL is because they're, young, driven players. But in reality, a very small percentage does make it. So if I could give advice to them, it would be think of the different options within the game. If you love hockey that much, marketing, broadcasting, writing. I mean, there's so many things. You get into the, physiotherapy, whatever you want. But for me, I took a course and um, basically got talked out of it by a few people that said, there's no money, and they kind of discouraged me from it. So
Mhm.
got away from it, and then always thought I want to get back into that, and if I could, it would be fabulous. Reached out to a couple connections and jumped in the, like I said, with the Pete's on your TV a few times in a backup role, and
Mhm.
actually helped out the Ottawa 67s on TSN 1200 with Kenny Walls, who's their play-by-play man. And then later, Stu Kernan from Freak 90.5 contacted me and asked if I wanted to join him as the color guy, and the rest is history. And I can't state how much fun I have at every Pete's game. We got all the fans and they're sitting in front of us. I formed a relationship with them. I usually walk around the rink at the intermission just to converse with some of the great people of the city of Peterborough.
Mhm.
It's been awesome, and then I've combined writing a weekly column in the Examiner as well. So I'm and actually throwing in coaching minor hockey. My young lad plays, believe it or not, a goalie, and he's just 8 years old. He's young, but throwing that in as well, I'm in a very good place right now in the hockey world, and that's all outside of playing the game.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So in your broadcasting career, I did actually interview Pete Dalliday a while back. I asked him the same thing. So, those guys that have been calling games, whether it's OHL, NHL for a while, they have their own style. Some of them have their own phrase. The Bowen has the "Holy Mackinaw." If you're that's recognizable by any hockey fan anywhere. So. Do you have any of those? Any lines you throw out? I know obviously you have to kind of go with the flow of the game, but do you have any memorable calls you've made, or anything you throw out or save for a rainy day?
You know what? I don't think I have one specific line, but a lot of my friends that and family that listen in like to give me the odd chirp because I do like to drop a lot of information on goalies. So
Yeah.
I like coming up with different facts on different players as well. I look at like Adam Zidlicki of the Brampton Steelheads. His dad Merrick was a longtime defenseman in the NHL. So I like giving the listeners that information. Right? It's always kind of fun to know the bloodlines from some of these players and just some fun facts. Right? Sometimes I'll come up with hockey birthdays. Who's celebrating a birthday? I think Chris Pronger had I believe it was his 50th earlier this season on a Pete's game night. So I like to come up with some unique information, stuff that you don't always hear. And, Stu,
Hmm.
the play-by-play, I jump in with the color stuff during the stoppages. And overall, I just have an absolute blast. I think I had to miss one game earlier this season on home ice, and it actually pained me because I have that much fun with it. And I've really, really enjoyed it. And again, there's so many fantastic people in our community um, involved with the Pete's and just fans in general. So That I can't stress how fun it was back in 2023 when they went on that run. You think of the Avery Hayes goal against North Bay. It looked like the Petes might be getting eliminated, and Brennan Hoffman sends that cross crease pass over to Hayes, and then they went to Game 7 and making the trip down to London for those games. Like everything was just so awesome, and yeah, they're struggling this year, but it hasn't changed my passion and love for it. I absolutely love going to the PNC for all these games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, we've been seasons ticket holders, my family for it's 25 years at least now, and um, I just like a memory I'll never forget is watching the clock go down the final 5 seconds. We're about to take London out, which is
Yeah,
if we can beat anyone, it's London. Like I hate London with a passion. I almost want London to lose as much as I want the Pete's to win. It's a little bit
right.
sick, but so it's counting down and my dad's beside me, and we're both not like physical touch people
Right.
by any means, but we like hugged each other and we're jumping up and down and we're just like giving her, and I is one of the best memories. It's a memory I'll have forever. Like the pizzas is definitely something we look forward to just every Thursday. And
Yeah.
that run of hockey was so special that you could tell the community was just in it. The excitement was there. The boys were there. It was such a fun time. So yeah, you mentioned the Avery Hayes goal. I can't remember who actually put the goal in, but there was a stretch of play where it looked like there was going to be a stretch pass for a breakaway, and Connor Smith dove and knocked the puck down and
Yeah.
set the puck up the other way, and the Pete's end up scoring. And I can't remember who ended up putting the goal in, but I remember that play. And I was just like, that was just an unbelievable stretch of hockey, and so that was so fun. I can't imagine. Being in the booth and being around and able to call those games. Was there any other memories besides the Hayes goal you said that just were awesome for you and a moment you could soak up?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned that play by Connor Smith, and I remember like yesterday, it was Cameron Tolnai of the
Yeah,
Six Sevens who went down the right side.
yeah,
Connor Smith looked like he was beat, stretched out, made a fantastic defensive play. I mean, that's a beautiful play to make the play without hauling him down is incredible. So it was a great play by the big rig. Obviously, they called him that over the years. Uh,
yeah,
and I'm with you. I can't remember who buried that. Might have been Othman, but I could be wrong.
yeah,
Um, but anyways, that was a huge play. And then I think honestly, just when that final buzzer sounded um, at the PMC for the final game and the victory there, it was a pretty cool feeling, right? And I had a lot of people saying like, "What a year to jump into this and see the Pete's go on a run and actually get it done," right? So it was. It's one of those things. That playoff series when Owen Beck got suspended, I was a little bit worried, going, "Ooh, I don't know, that could be a huge loss. Does London find a way back?" But you look at London, they were missing Brett Brochu. He was a huge piece in goal for them. Could it have looked different with him in net? Yeah, it could have, but who knows, right? We can sit here and what if it all night. The Pete's found a way to win, and that's all that matters. So, but Easton Cow and Denver Bark, I remember they sat out the one game with the apparently the flu or whatever it might have been.
yeah.
Uh, but that was a huge loss for them as well. So, and I mean, that's the playoffs. You got guys in and out regardless. So, I think it was the finals going down to London, being in the broadcast booth. It was my taste of the NHL from a broadcaster's perspective. You're looking around everywhere, going, "Look at all these people. This is an NHL atmosphere." I mean, I respect the London Knights for what they got down there. It is one well-run organization right now with the Hunters, and
Hmm.
a close friend of mine's the associate GM there, Rob Simpson, and again, I helped Rob there a few years back with some goalie scouting, and I can't I can't say enough good things about Rob and some of those guys. They have a pretty special program going on there for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned before, like I hate London with everything inside of me. But I will give props to they have a phenomenal facility,
Oh,
and the kind of the area surrounding the rink with like little pubs to catch a bite before or after the game. Like it's a very neat fan experience. I think it's one of the best in the league. I'll give them that. I also hate Oshawa, as you can imagine, but I've been to their rink a couple times for games and concerts, and they have a good rink as well. So I'll give props to the facilities. Yeah, I know when I asked Pete the same thing. As a broadcaster, you get to travel with the boys, see some of the away barns, and do you have a favorite road destination? He was saying some of the northern ones for him did it like the Sudbury barn, and um, I think he said it was one. I can't remember. I have to go back. It was like Erie or something kind of like obscure. One of the ones that just over the border in the state, maybe Saginaw or something, was kind of a unique one as well. So, um, any junior ranks or communities that you've enjoyed getting to see, or even as a goalie, you could throw that in there if you have some during your playing time.
Yeah, so for me, my favorite rink back when I was playing was definitely the Ottawa Civic Center.
Yeah.
I had some of my best games with the Kingston Frontenacs at the Ottawa Civic Center. Remember one we got outshot 66-23 and was fortunate to get to overtime where we lost. But at that time, I guess, yeah, we picked up the single point. But it was a fantastic rink. There was 10,000 fans. There was cheerleaders, the Jumbotron. It's sad for me now going because still respect the organization, love the organization, love the rink, but some of the press boxes are condemned now, and I know the roofs had some problems leaking and stuff. So it's sad for me seeing that, but it was a great rink. I hated playing at the St. Mike's College Arena.
Oh
Just
yes.
never felt comfortable in that rink. It was
Yeah.
small. Um, for whatever reason, it was just one of those rinks where I thought, "Ooh, I just want to kind of get out of here." But as a broadcaster, I got to be honest with you, one of the rinks I absolutely love is that new Oshawa facility, the
Hmm.
new community center. We have a nice view from way up top in the rafters. We got to go across a catwalk, which was a little bit nerve wracking the first time I did it. But now I love it. It's a private location. We're high above the ice. You get to see Cal Ritchie, Beckett Seneca, some of these super talented generals from high above the surface. And you just see that skill like Seneca. I mean, he's a guy, when there's no time and space, he creates it. He makes a couple little shifty moves. And all of a sudden, he's in all alone and wreaking havoc on the Petes and other opposing teams as well. So I like
Hmm.
Ottawa. Kingston's got a beautiful facility. I just wish there was more fans in the rink. It's a great hockey town. I have a lot of family and friends down there. Played with the Fronts. Like to see them get some more seats or sort of more bums in the seats, and I'd be happier. But fantastic venue. They've done a really good job with it. The Sioux Gardens was a rink, um, closed now, of course, but was just an awesome, awesome old barn. The bleachers were all bent, and you saw the names Ron Francis, Gretzky, all in the rafters. That was a great rink, like playing there. Sudbury, as you mentioned, um, the Wolf on the Wire when they score, and
Yep.
it seems
Yep.
old school now, but I love it, and hardworking people in that community, and the Wolves, I think, have some of the best jerseys, honestly, in the CHL. And that I always thought if I was playing in Sudbury, I would have had a pretty cool helmet because you could do something really cool with the Wolf
With
and
the wolf.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so lots of good. Really, OHL is the best. I'm a huge supporter of the league, whether I'm playing, a fan, writing about it, commentating. I'll always love the league, and nothing but good things to say about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's. So I know there's been talk, about we need to update the PMHC or even build a local rink somewhere else, and part of me is like, and there's updates that can be done for sure. It's an old rink, but I mean, like, I love the nostalgia, and those square boards are, I think they're illegal now if we were to build a new rink. So I would miss that. It's
Yeah.
growing up a Pete's fan. It's just part of that uniqueness and that peculiar charm that Peterborough has. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if and when. I haven't followed it enough to know whether that's close or whether they're making progress, but um, you see a lot of the rinks now, the actual ice surfaces are cookie cutters of each other, and then it's the kind of the extra stuff that separates the rinks from each other. The facilities in the crowd, or maybe the clock or the jumbotron or whatever. So I hope it lasts a little bit because I would miss that. The old square boards that we hear about in Peterborough. It's a thing, and I think it's a great thing that makes Peterborough such a unique place.
It's awesome. When you see the visiting teams come in, I remember being a visitor, and I was well aware of the boards, being a kid from Peterborough, but still, they were an absolute nightmare. So I remember saying to a couple of my defensemen that night, I am not coming out as much to play the puck. If there's anything, high near the glass, like I am just hanging in the crease. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to come back a little extra harder tonight to retrieve pucks. But we've seen it all throughout this year. I mean, the last 30 years or 40 or whatever, where the Pete's will dump a puck in and a goalie goes back to play, and all of a sudden it's out in the slot area, right? So one of the things I always say too is, fans always go on, I want to see a new rink. I'm done with the PMC or whatever rink it may be. And then as soon as, a couple years goes by, all of a sudden I kind of miss the Memorial Center. It was so cool, all the memories and blah, blah, blah. So all I can say is, savor the time now, enjoy it. And I actually miss the old Oshawa rink. I love the new facility, but love playing games in that old rink. The roof was really low. The fans were relentless, like down in Windsor with the Spitfires fans back in their old rink. But some of those old rinks, they're so, like you said, so unique, and they're so different from one another, where now you could, drop a person in an NHL rink, and unless you saw the logos everywhere, you wouldn't know what rink you're in. They're all
Exactly.
so similar, right? So
Yeah,
they're beautiful facilities. Don't get me wrong. The press boxes, the viewpoints are magnificent, but I don't mind being uncomfortable at Maple Leaf Gardens, sitting in the mezzanine at the end, and observing a game. I'd give anything, like I said earlier in the interview, to go back to Maple Leaf Gardens and either skate on the ice or just take in one more game. It was awesome. So for you and your family members, yeah, enjoy all these memories you're making. And at one time, I'm sure there will be a new facility in Peterborough.
for sure. Absolutely. So in the press box, whether it was your stints on TV or on the radio, there's guys that come through with just disaster last names. Have you ever had a guy you're staring at the game sheet, or you're looking and you're saying, "What the heck am I doing here?" The one guy that jumps to me is always Arbor Jackeye.
Yeah,
I remember looking at the back of his jersey and I was like, "What the heck how do you get Jackeye out of that, first of all?" And how many times has that poor guy had to, correct for interviews or broadcasters? So any names that you remember, kind of jumping off the table, or you had to kind of learn quickly on the fly during a game?
yeah. There's definitely been a few. I've found I've always been good with pronunciation based on my passion for the game. So there's been
Hmm.
Russian players and Czechia players for a long time playing in these leagues. So I've always been pretty good at spelling and announcing these names. But there's always the odd guy that catches you off guard. So I think it's the Sarnia Stings goalie. He's an overager now, but so I may get the pronunciation wrong now, but Zichka or something, and
Yeah.
league for a few years. But just one of those names where you go to say it and you're thinking, oh, geez, I hope I get this right. And that's important, right? I mean, if you're playing, I want to say Reeser properly. I mean, it's a relatively easy name, but,
Right.
I always used to get Chris Hardill, and it's Hardill,
Yeah.
it's an I in the name there, but now and go Chris Hardill. And, uh, people like to hear their name properly. So I work at that, and I always review each roster. I know there's a young defenseman playing for the Ottawa 67s now, Ash Kogan, and he's been in town a few times of late with the 67s. And, you got to keep that in your mind there, because if you see it all of a sudden and forget the pronunciation, it can be a challenge, right? But, most of the teams, the names aren't too bad. But I'm trying to think of the other guy that was a bit of a mouthful, Luca Del Bel Beluz, who I
Oh,
think is
yeah.
playing Columbus's system now. He was a very good player and
Yeah.
had some success in junior. But there's been a few, and there's another lad. Geez, it was a few months ago. I can't remember what team was in town, but it was another mouthful, and I'm thinking, oh boy, hopefully he has a quiet night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't score, don't get a penalty. Just, don't
Oh, yeah,
even pass it to him. Yeah, like, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah. So to the Pete's now. You've been following them. You say, as a fan and as a broadcaster. That awesome run to the Memorial Cup a couple years ago, and then unfortunately a couple of years before that, the COVID year. They load up. They bring a Keel Thomas in. They look like they're just on track to make a deep run, and unfortunately, the year's gone. So I like to think there was probably another deep run, maybe a chip to the Memorial Cup as well, but we'll never know. So that's unfortunate. Since then, like you said, the way it seems to go for every team except London is you make a run and then you got to rebuild. So that's where the Pete's are right now. A couple trades last year, bringing in all those first round picks from the same year, and um, so just your thoughts on kind of the rebuild process. It's tough to see. My vision, or my analysis, and my brother Matt's analysis was, yeah, it's tough to go from, the pinnacle to humbling yourself a little bit, but it had to happen. Otherwise, you end up with some mediocre years, and that's where you don't want to be. I thought they did well to bring in a lot of first round picks, some young guys to establish a core. Um, and I'm excited. I'm still excited. This year, I obviously hasn't gotten off to the start maybe we thought, but I'm still excited, and I am still very intrigued as to where this team can go from here. So, just your thoughts on kind of that process of getting back to being a contender, and how you see it going so far. And is there anyone in particular you're really excited about, or what are your thoughts from up
Yeah,
in the booth there?
you know what? I think Mike Oak did a good job last year, right? Sometimes you see GMs, they'll kind of go half in, half out, maybe a
Hmm.
guy here and there, and then retain this guy and whatnot. I think, you know what? He dove right in and said, we're going to do our rebuild here, and why not? They got hit hard by graduation the year before. You won an OHL championship. If you're a fan of a hockey club in junior, I think you have to have some patience and recognize, yeah, we won in 2023. The chances of us coming back in 2024, 2025 to win again, pretty much slim to none. So I think
Hmm.
Michael did a good job. He recognized that, you know what, we have some assets. If we trade these guys, we can bring in some youth. And he did a great job. He restocked the cupboards. Nico Addy, big young power forward. He's a guy, yeah, he got 2 goals Sunday against Sudbury, which was
Hmm.
nice to see. Has struggled offensively, but he's young. I'm not going to give up on him. He's got a huge, reach, big body. When he gets in close, he's got a rocket of a shot. So you know what? The players will get younger as he gets older in the league, and I think he's a guy that can do damage in the next few seasons. Caden Taylor, another guy with a great release. Yes, does he have to learn how to play the 200-foot game a little bit more? Yes, in his own.
Hmm.
We've
Hmm.
seen a couple gaps, but he's a guy. He's got great hands. He's got that wicked release. I think he's going to turn into a good player. Aiden Young
Yep.
having some success. Carson Cameron on the back end showing a lot of promise, playing a good two-way game. Liam Lads is a kid I don't mind at all as well. He's a rangy defender. Um, and then, yeah, you look in goal. Easton Rye and Mason Johnson were thrown into an incredibly tough position, right? Basically, a team that had lost 15 games to start the season, one win in 16. You're throwing two rookies into that. I know most of the Pete's brass would attest to the fact that that's not an ideal situation, but they couldn't really go with anything else. So I thought Easton Rye actually exceeded my expectations, and that's no disrespect to him. I thought he was put in a tough spot, and he ended up picking up some victories and played really, really well. He was very steady, and Mason Johnson played fantastic. I remember doing the game in Kingston, and he made a save on Cedric Gandon, the overager, in overtime, a beautiful save. I expected that was going to be curtains for the Petes, and he made some huge overtime saves and has played really well in his 4 games as well. So I think, you know what, there's lots to look forward to. There's going to be some growing pains next year. There'll probably be some as well. So, you know what, be patient with it. And yeah, the Petes restocked the cupboards, and I like the moves by Mike Oak. I think you go all in, and even this year, I would, as GM, you're always listening, maybe, to hear what's out there. If somebody really likes like a Jonathan Malik, well, you know what, maybe I look at possibly making a trade and getting some younger assets back, right? So
Yep.
we'll have to wait and see. But it's funny, a lot of fans think that trades are all about fleecing the other GM, but the GMs can tell you that's not the case. It's to help your club and it'll help mine as well. So look at the Nico Addy trade, right? You got Sam McHugh and Connor Smith, 2 veteran players that are good going that way. And then it's Nico Addy and Martin Matejacek that come back to the Petes and serve a purpose for a couple of seasons as well in maroon and white, right? So it's not
Yeah.
about fleecing. If GMs were fleecing each other all the time, they're not going to make trades anymore, right? It would be, hey, you know what, Josh, you fleeced me twice now. I'm
Yep. We're
done.
done.
I'm
Yeah.
done. So I think for Mike Oak, he's just got to listen to the other GMs and see what they're saying, and if a trade makes sense, then by all means, possibly entertain it.
Absolutely, for sure. I'm glad you mentioned, Easton Rye, Mason Johnson. We said the same thing. We had a previous one of our episodes. We did it might have even been last episode or maybe 2 episodes ago. We kind of did our first half recap, and so one of our discussion was like, what's a storyline that caught off guard? Was a pleasant surprise, and both of us immediately were Easton Rye. Like again, no disrespect to him, but he hasn't had a huge chance to prove himself yet, because it was Simpson's crease, and then it was Stutzka's crease, and then Zach Bowen comes over in the starter, and He had kind of a game here or there over the last couple of years, and I know he had that big game last year against London where he broke the streak, and I was super happy for him. But yeah, Bowen goes down, and I'm like, very much unproven in my mind, was Easton Rye, and he came in and he was just unbelievable. Like it's a testament to the Pete's organization. I think developing and finding goalies, and you hit that nail on the head with Mason Johnson too. I've been intrigued since we drafted him, and local guy, and actually very funny or very exciting to see two local guys, Rye and Johnson both manning the crease. I don't know when the last time that's happened. So yeah, I'm right with you right there. I think for the first half of the year, he's a guy that I think has exceeded my expectations, most improved, and I hope he gets with Bowen back. I hope he gets some more opportunity to show what he can do, because he can be a great goalie as we've seen. So exciting for him going forward.
Yeah,
But
you know what? You look at the goaltending over about the last 10 years for the Peterborough Petes. One thing that hasn't been a problem has been the goaltending, right? You got Dylan
absolutely.
Well, parlay that into Hunter Jones, who was a very good goaltender. And you talked about that team, the COVID year. They were basically on a crash course to meet the Ottawa 67s, likely in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that would have been one heck of a series. That was a
Oh
very
yeah.
good Ottawa 67s team as well. So that would have been fun and entertaining. But you look at, after Jones, you got Michael Simpson. He was a late draft pick, came in, turned into a solid number one goaltender. So that was a great pick by the Petes, a late pick that blossomed into a bona fide starter. And then
Hmm.
here, you look at the numbers. Zach Bowen early in the year, his numbers were not indicative of how well he was playing. You had to think that the Petes were giving up tons of high danger chances, game in and game out. And these guys were giving the team a chance to win those games, but they just didn't have that game breaker. They would be down 3-2. They couldn't find that one guy that could elevate his game, get the big goal, get them right back into it. So these were close games. I think in the first 16 games, they lost 10 games by no more than a 2-goal margin. So you're right in those games, right? And that was a tough ask for the goaltenders. Basically, at times, the Petes were saying, you can't give up more than, 1 or 2 goals. Um, Otherwise, we're not going to win. That is real tough, and those guys played fantastic, and they've been really good all year. I know Rob Wilson would say the same. That the Achilles heel for the Peterborough Petes is not goaltending. That's not an
No,
issue whatsoever. They've been
absolutely.
solid. They've been dependable. It's just been a matter of finding offense, and
Yeah.
you look a few years ago, Brennan Hoffman, Tucker Robertson,
Yeah.
Jay Stillman, Avon. The list
Yeah.
went on. They had depth.
Yeah.
Right, young team. Colin
Yeah.
Fitzgerald will blossom into a very, very effective player,
Yeah.
but right now it's scoring by committee, and there's just not a lot of. They're averaging less than 2.5 goals a game, and that's problematic for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to win. Yeah, and a power play, and surprisingly, even the power play wasn't even great in the year they actually won the OHL. It wasn't
That's right.
wasn't amazing, and it's been a tough go. But yeah, you're right. It's one thing that I think will come with the young guys is as they figure it out and get their confidence going and start to take over the league a bit. Hopefully, the goals per game goes up a bit, and the wins follow. Absolutely.
For
Now
sure.
you, oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
Josh, the one nice thing about this is, and I know some of the younger players were a little bit frustrated and talking to them off the record, I love being here. I love being a Pete, but it's been tough with, losing night in and night out. But
Yeah,
the one bonus to this is when this team keeps improving over the next couple seasons, those old guys are going to say to the young guys, you know what? I've been part of it when it was really ugly and we couldn't find a way to win a game. This is a really hard league to win in. So
for
you got
sure.
to put out a full 60-minute effort. Got to
Yeah,
compete in practice. You got to, lay it all on the line all the time. And I think there's some valuable lessons that come with losing. Right? Sometimes you hit rock bottom, and as they say, there's nowhere but up from there.
yeah,
So some valuable lessons, and these guys will benefit from it down the road. It could be 2 years from now, but at some point
absolutely.
they will for sure.
Absolutely, and it's fun to see, because wins have been hard to come by. You see an overtime win, and just the guys like maul each other, and
Yeah,
Easton Rye skating out to center ice, and the guys all jump on like it's just so exciting to see them come together and celebrate a win and work hard and achieve that. As a fan, even in a tough year, I've never considered not going to a Peace game, because there's moments like that where you're just like so happy for the guys, and it fires you up. So awesome to see. But
well, you look at Blake Gowan, right? He scored the big goal, his first
yeah,
OHL Eddie Veritas goal, right? That's an
yeah,
exciting moment. He's a good kid. I actually know his dad quite well from Kingston, and was texting him, and that's a big moment. Lots of exciting moments, right? And my thing is too, even if you're frustrated with your hometown club, whether it's Peterborough, Oshawa, Kitchener, or whatever it may be, there's so many good players in the league that are exciting to watch as well. So when Oshawa comes to town, Beckett Seneca, Cal Ritchie, when it's Saginaw, Zane Perek, Michael Misa, Porter Martone. He's a Peterborough boy who's an awesome,
He's
awesome
unbelievable.
player.
Unbelievable.
He's coming twice to
Yeah.
Peterborough last half of the year. Get to the rink and watch him. He's a great kid, comes from a great family. There's so much to like, and he's going to get drafted, top three, top five in the NHL, the upcoming NHL entry draft. So,
Yeah.
lots of exciting things. And yeah, there's been a few more losses than we'd like, but it's a good group of kids. I've met Colin Fitzgerald a few times, and real pleasant, bright kid again with a very bright future. So sometimes you got to be patient, and a lot of times, people don't want to do that, right? They don't have that patience. So take a deep breath, and again, there's some good players on this roster, and this team will be okay, but we'll just have to give it some time.
For sure, for sure. Now you may have given this away earlier. No, I said you worked with London a little bit. As was it in their development, their
Yeah,
player development?
just basically offering goaltending, scouting, and assistance. And Darren McChesney was the goalie coach. I think he actually just finished up doing that, but he was a goalie scout as well. And I just
Okay.
assisted him with checking out some goaltenders and some players as well. Saw a lot of really good players back in 2016, and several are in the NHL now. So it just shows you how quick some of these guys can make it.
Nice. Well, I ask all our guests. So, we rather see the Petes beat London or Oshawa? For me, it's an easy. I've given it away already. It's like the New York Yankees or London for me. Like I would cheer for any other team over London.
But
The history,
yeah,
and it goes back to some of the playoff battles we had the year we swept them when they had Corey Perry, and then the most recent years, and watching Max Domi and Marner go through there, and there's been some legends, but just a win against London just fires me up so much more than an Oshawa one does at this point. For the
yeah,
Petes, it's probably more beneficial because we play Oshawa more, and I
yeah.
get that. But I'll take a win against London any day of the week. I don't know if you have a preference or if you're allowed to say.
Well, you know what I think. I have a lot of connections throughout the league, so I always got to be careful. But you know what? It's funny, like the London series in 2023, because that was the OHL championship. I think that adds so much more to it, right? Where if the Petes are playing in the opening rounds of the playoffs, it's still exciting, but it doesn't. It's not of the same magnitude. So for me, I look back at the rivalry with the Oshawa Generals when you might be too young for this, but the days of John Tripp and Larry Courville and Derek Dolson was a goalie. Dave Arsenault. There were some really Nathan Parrott, another guy that comes to mind. There were some fierce rivalry games between the two clubs, and there were a lot of fun. Face washes after every whistle, gloves everywhere. So that was a big rivalry. Things have changed. You look at it now; it's still a rivalry, but you'll see guys taking the photo at center ice because they played on the U17 team or their buddies or whatever. And I'm fine with it. The game's changed and it's got safer for players, so I'm not going to sound like I'm complaining. But it used to be chaotic. You look back at the game. I think it was off topic a bit, but Mick Vukota was an Islanders player on the back in the '90s, and I remember he told a story in Spit and Chicklets that he wanted the coach to say his name and find out who he was. So what did he do? Well, he went down to the other end of the ice and took a shot on the opposing goalie in warm up and started the bench clearing brawl. I'm hilarious. I love the stories of the enforcers, and I know a few of them, and I laugh so hard when I hear those things. It's unbelievable. He said he went in the room, and Brian Murray, the coach at the time, said, "Who are you?" And I'm Mick Vukota. Mick Vukota. Well, he said my name. Perfect. That's what I had to do. So the days, of the brawls and everything else, obviously are behind us, and I'm all for the talent. You look at the ability. I told a buddy 20 years ago. I said the game will go more European with stick handling, skating, puck possession, and whatnot. And I remember he looked at me and thought I was crazy because Canadian hockey is putting the guy through the boards. But I always said when I was in net, you'd see guys, somebody come down on a 3-on-2, and the defenseman would rub a player out, and everybody would go wild saying, "What a great hit!" Well, you just left a 2-on-1. It's not
Right.
that great of a play, to be honest.
Yeah.
More about the positioning and an active stick and directing guys, using your angles. And what? In all honesty, not to make myself sound out like or sound like I'm the man because I'm not, but the game has totally gone that way with puck possession and skill, and I love it. I love watching it. The odd fight's okay,
Yeah.
but being older now, I kind of worry about the players. You know, you saw
Yeah.
Carson last year get hurt a couple times, and you worry about the head, right? So, being a father, that's something that I recognize more and more is we got to be careful with head injuries. But I really elaborated on that answer, but I guess I'll go with for now probably the London Knights based on if they're playing. You're hoping it's the OHL championship.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, like I said, I don't want to keep you too long, but I will
As
dive into
long as you want. We're
some
talking.
goalie questions for you as a self-proclaimed goalie nerd. I didn't know how deep to go, and it was hard to come up with questions because I'm not a goalie nerd. I enjoy watching them play, but like I said, I had my one game, and then I retired from goalkeeping after that. So I'll start off with some kind of more, your opinion questions, and then I'll see if I can even come close to stumping you or anything like that with some questions before we wrap her up. So first one's an opinion one.
Sure.
What's more entertaining, a goalie fight or a goalie goal?
Oh, well, we saw Carter George score a
Yeah,
goal.
I was gonna say I wasn't at that game. I had to work a night shift that game, but I remember my brother texting me and he's like, the fans in Peterborough were like standing and cheering because it's just so rare. Like, so I wish I was there to see it, but
Well, gosh, because
fights are good too.
I had a couple friends that were at the game and then they left because I think Owen Sound, I can't remember what the score was, but they had the game in hand.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they went for the eggs. It's a little bit early to beat the traffic. And then all of a sudden they found out what? Carter George scored. What in the heck is going on? So I'm sure they're sad they missed it. But as exciting as that is, and I'm not a fighter, so but I'm going to say this. I think it's a goalie fight. There's something
Yeah.
about it, right? You
Yeah.
see chaos ensue on the ice, and all of a sudden, Ron Hexel and Felix Potvin
Yeah.
or Osgood and Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
Uh, Jordan Binnington, there's a guy that, you know, does, I guess, more mouthing than anything. And it looks like he's looking for a fight, but has never really had one from what I know in the NHL. But it'd be exciting to see him and somebody else tangle. And there's something about it. It gets the fans going like crazy. But a goalie goal is awesome. But looking back at Hextall and Potvin, I mean, that was spectacular. Ty Domi pointed at Hextall's cut
Yeah.
with down the side of his face. I mean, there's something about goalie fights that get people going pretty crazy.
For sure. I agree. Yeah, no, and you mentioned him earlier, Ray Emery. He had that epic fight against Buffalo, and I can't remember if it was 2006, 2007. That was quite a game. And then back in the day, Osgood and Waugh went at it. And I think Mike Vernon and Waugh, you see those highlights over and over on TSN, like even
Oh,
20 years later now, just because it is exciting. So I'll agree with you there. It's fun to see both, but
yep.
a good goalie tussle. I haven't been able to see one live. Maybe someday, but you see them on the highlights, and it's quite something. Quite
Well,
something to see
one
passing over
funny
it.
story for you, and I was very fortunate. I remember playing up in the Sioux, and it was the year after Ray Emery had graduated, and I puck him over the blue line, and it was going to be a race for it. So I just made up my mind, I'm going for it. Don't want the breakaway. I'll go out, take my chances, get to it, and shoot off the boards. So I did exactly that, and it was actually Jeff Carter, longtime King Penguin. Wasn't his style at all, but he steamrolled me, and I found out through a teammate later that yeah, he did it on purpose. But anyways, nonetheless, the gloves came off everywhere. I got back up, picked myself up off the ice, watched everybody going at it. And fortunately, at that time, I think it was the goalie was maybe Joey Biasucci at the other end. But a year prior to that, it was Ray Emery. So I remember being thankful, thinking, what would this look like if that was Emery down there? Like, I doubt he would be sitting there drinking out of his water bottle. He'd probably be
Yeah.
ate the length of the ice. So they're scaling the glass or trying to head for the exit. I don't know, but I actually remember thinking that in my head that, wow, if this was a year prior, this probably isn't going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Next one's another kind of opinion-based question before we get into some general trivia. So I'll have you do a blind ranking. So your top five, you're not going to know who's coming next, and as soon as you slot them in, that's where they're staying. Then we'll
Okay.
see. Your the following five goalies. You can take this any way you want in terms of your preference, entertainment value, who you actually think is the best statistically.
Okay.
I'll let you have your creative way with it. So I'll
Okay.
start off number one with the Dominator, Dominic Hasek.
Whew. I would probably throw him the top five. I'd probably put him at number two, I would think. Uh,
Yeah.
he was fabulous. He was a guy that could be in my net any day, right? So you always think game seven. People say, who are you going to throw in for game seven? Dominic Hasek. I don't know how he did it. I really don't. You look at the game now, right? The goaltending style is broken down like a golf swing, right? They really analyze it. His RVH and his lateral mobility and controlled slides. How are they? And it's amazing to think that Dominic Hasek quite often just laid out, threw his blocker up, threw his leg up, and made saves. So he was one spectacular talent. Um, Tons of confidence mentally. You look at him against Canada back in what was it, '98 with
Oh
very
yeah.
left on the bench, right? But he was
Unbelievable.
shootout, and you look at those Buffalo Sabres teams, right? Well, it wasn't that they were bad; they weren't bad, but without him, what do they look like? Who knows?
Yeah.
But Dominic,
Oh,
absolutely phenomenal. So I'll put him at number two for now. Yeah,
number two, Dominic Hasek. All right. Next up, Roberto Luongo.
Roberto Luongo. I really, like I said, kind of modeled my game after Roberto Luongo. Um, Big mobile goaltender, lots of size, having some success now in the management capacity with the Florida
For
Panthers.
sure. Yep.
Like a likable guy on social media, always entertaining. I think you got some real good ones still sitting in your pocket there. So I'll maybe go with Luongo as number five for now.
Number five. Okay. All right. Next up, Curtis Joseph.
Ooh,
Cujo.
Cujo, I'll put at number four.
Yeah.
I like to say number one because he's a former Leaf. We all remember his moment with Mick Magoo against Ottawa when he
Yes.
was arguing a goal and ended up tripping him up. Uh, but Cujo, super competitive. I read his book. He's got an interesting life story. Battled
Hmm.
some adversity, turned into a fantastic goalie. Played lots of minutes with the Oilers, Blues, whatnot. Real competitive. Not the biggest guy, but a guy that wore his heart on his sleeve and had lots of talent as well. And I think he played until he was in his early 40s. Came back with the Leafs. Wasn't the same Cujo, and that's no disrespect to him whatsoever because he was a phenomenal talent. But yeah, I'll throw Cujo in at number four. So who do we
Number
have?
four.
Five Luongo, four Cujo, and two Hasek.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So number three, number one left. Next up, Patrick Waugh.
I knew he was coming at some point. So um, it's hard for me to say being a Leaf fan, but there's something about that guy that some would say he's a bit arrogant or whatnot, but there's something about him that I love. I love his passion, his competitiveness, his ability. He was a guy that, oh man, you can throw him in Game Seven anytime for me. Remember the wink on Hockey Night in Canada? You see it against the Kings, right, where he does that famous wink. Um, he's a guy that I figure the New York Islanders at some point have to be really good because I don't think there'd be many days off with that guy on your bench.
Oh,
I
for sure.
really don't. So there's something likable about that guy, and he is the guy that I'm throwing in my net for a must-win game.
Yeah. So number one,
Yep.
number one, Patrick Waugh. All right, and to round out the list, currently still playing, a future Hall of Famer, Flower Marc-Andre Fleury.
Wow. Yeah, again, you talk about likable people, right? Marc-Andre Fleury is phenomenal. He's had a fantastic career. Um, and the thing I like about him the most is he's super likable, right? You look at the smile and all the people that like him, all his teammates, right, from former teammates in Pittsburgh when he played there his last game, Letang, Malkin, Crosby, they're all over, giving him a hug and everything else. And I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about him. I had a friend that played with him in Cape Breton in the Quebec League many years ago, and nothing but amazing things to say. He seems like a family man, consummate professional, and one heck of a goalie, right? I'm sitting here with an injured knee from playing pond hockey with 8-year-olds, and Marc-Andre Fleury's waking up and going to practice with the Minnesota Wild at age 40. So
That's
we're,
wild.
we're a year apart, not that big of a difference playing the CHL at the same time. And I look at him and think, oh my God, getting out of bed, as you know, sometimes we tweak our back or tweak something and
Hmm.
going out with the best players in the world and still posting pretty respectable numbers. So he's a guy I really, really respect. And the only guy that I feel bad about right now, we got a top five going here, and somehow Martin Brodeur is not mentioned.
I know, I know.
I
I
feel,
had to think about who I'm putting in there, and
yeah,
yeah, whether I could throw a hot take in there or not. But
I feel wrong about that. I really do. So
yeah,
again, we know how great
he's
he is.
unbelievable. Yeah, yeah. He
Unbelievable. You know,
absolutely much respect to Brodeur.
70 plus games a year. I mean, who does that, right? And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
uh, Scott Stevens, I've got to know Scott quite well, and and he just speaks so highly of Martin Brodeur. There's a guy that if he gave up 5 one night, he's coming back the next night. He's going to shut you out. I mean, the guy was
Yeah,
unbelievable. So I wish there was a 1B in there because he's probably slotted into 1B.
for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, pretty solid list. Not an easy task, especially when you don't know who's coming next, but I like it. I like. I think I would have a very very similar list.
Wonderful.
With Juan Hasek at the top and rounding out with some great goalies and Marc-Andre Fleury and Cujo and Luongo as well. So
Well, you look at the goalies now too, Josh. I've talked about it, but Jake Ottinger, Ilya
yeah,
Sorokin,
yeah,
Igor Shesterkin gets the biggest payday in the history of the NHL.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I heard a guy talking about who was, I think it was Steve Valquette of MSG, breaking down Shesterkin, saying that he's the best goalie at conserving his energy. And I thought, what in the heck are we talking about? But knows when to go down at the right time and not exert a lot of energy. These guys slide on their knees all night, and it does take out a little bit of energy. So it's funny. You look at these talents, and I mean, there's so Joseph Wall. If he can stay healthy, I think he has the potential to be a really, really good franchise
I
goalie for
agree. Yep,
Anthony Stolars has come in and
for
a
sure.
big body that covers so much net. And if
Yep,
those two stay healthy, the Leafs are in great shape. But the only question mark is health, and
yep,
that's a tough thing to move forward with.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, I'll give you some questions here. Um, like I said, hard to know how deep to dive, and I don't have any in the back of my head. I had to research these because I'm not as definitely not a goalie nerd,
Oh,
but I'll give it a shot anyway. So, can you name? There's two guys actually tied most wins by a goalie in a single season. One was in 2020 or 26. Sorry, 2006, 2007. The other was in 2016, 2017.
phew. I have to feel like would Marty be in there though? Marty Brodeur.
Marty's one of them. He's the
Yeah,
first one, New Jersey in 2006, 2007.
I figured that. I figured he'd have to be in there. So okay, perfect. So now we're moving to 2016, 17.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be Marty on that one. Oh man, I'm trying to think here. Any little hint that you can throw out?
Eastern Conference,
Okay. Uh,
uh, Canadian goalie.
Canadian, eh? Oh man, now I'm drawing a blank, and I don't normally get any of these wrong. But oh, you know what? 2016, 17. I'm trying to think how good that club was at the time, but automatically I go to like a Carey Price. But Montreal, I don't think would be in the equation there, right?
No, not Carey Price. No.
William Price. Let me think here. Boston. Let me run through my teams. 16, 17. Now, Luongo, when would he have concluded his career? He would have been with the Canucks. I don't think they had those years against the Blackhawks in the playoffs, of course, had some success. Potentially, nah, it can't be Luongo.
No, not Luongo. It's a guy that's a little bit more under the radar. I'll give you that hint as well.
Oh,
He might not be mentioned in this in the same breath as those legends. A good goalie,
yeah.
was for a while, but not in the same breath as a Hall of Famer.
Oh, I feel like I know this, and I'm having a hard time. Give me the initial of his first name.
First name B.
B. Oh. Now wait a minute. Most wins in a season, Canadian goaltender. Who has a B? Brian Elliott was a guy with the Blues. No, but he didn't play enough. Oh. All right, give this one to me.
All right, it's Braden Holtby, Washington Capitals. Yeah,
Good one. Okay.
yeah, that was a tough one. I knew Marty Brodeur would jump out, but yeah.
Very
All
good.
right, we'll move on to this is since 2000.
Okay.
Two goalies to go first overall in the NHL draft.
All right. Well, you got Marc-Andre Fleury,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh Penguins. I believe that was the year that Eric Stahl
that's
went
correct.
second,
Yeah,
and Nathan Horton of the Generals would have gone third.
yeah,
Um, and the other one, I knew it right away. A guy that was a
yeah,
very, very good goaltender, an American-born goaltender. Actually, is a commentator and analyst now.
yeah.
Does a great job. Signed I think it was a 15-year deal.
15-year deal.
15-year deal, 67 mil. So that's
Yeah,
coming to me. Uh,
yeah,
didn't play it out because of injury. But a guy that I did like a lot, actually, Rick DiPietro to the Islanders.
That's right. That's right. You got him. Rick DiPietro in 2000 and Marc-Andre Fleury 3 years later in 2003.
Beautiful. 3 of 4. I'll
Got it.
take that. Keep going.
Awesome. Well done. Well done. All right. And this is since 1990.
Okay.
I was born in 91, so I didn't go too far back. Just I don't have that history in my brain yet.
Yeah.
So since 1990, there's three goalies that have won the Hart Trophy as the NHL MVP. One of them actually won it twice.
Okay. NHL MVP. Ooh, since 1990. I think Patrick Waugh's got to be in there.
He's not,
He's
surprisingly.
not. Eh?
I thought the same thing before I looked this up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always lean to Marty Brodeur.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
little Brodeur's not there either.
What in the world, eh?
I know, it's crazy.
Okay, just give me a second here then.
Yeah.
Trying to think back to those 90s. Tom Barrasso and the Penguins was, I'm not saying him for an answer, but Tom Barrasso was there. Osgood with the Wings. They had lots of success. Patrick Wahlberger not in there. That's incredible. Since the 90s, eh? Let me think here. You know what? One of them, John Sebastian Jaguar.
No. That was that was playoff MVP.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Conor White
Yeah.
with the Ducks in 03.
Yeah. You got that. Yep.
I may have to take a hint here.
Yeah. Okay. One of the hints. So there's three guys. Like I said, two of them played for the same organization.
Wow.
So the two of them are coming from the same team at different times. One of them was early 2000s. The other was late 2015.
Okay. Oh, great. The Hart, eh? Oh, man.
And then the other guy's a guy we've talked a bit about before, retired, and he's one of the guys you would certainly consider one of the legends.
Luongo?
No.
No? Who is
No.
geez. One of the legends, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Dominic Hasek.
Dominic Hasek. He actually was the guy that won it twice,
Okay.
back-to-back years, 97, 98, with, like you said, without him, I don't know where those Buffalo Sabres teams are, but yeah.
I'm thinking of these teams that went deep, right? And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And the Buffalo Sabres pop out, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough. So Dominic Hasek twice, and then one more.
And then, so Dominic Hasek twice, and then there's two other guys.
Right.
And they're both from the same, they both played for the same team when they won it.
Ooh. Okay. Now a goalie that is one of them of European descent? Maybe
No.
two of them? No?
No, both Canadian kids.
Canadian kids, eh? Okay. Frick. Let me run through here. The Sharks, St. Louis, Tampa. Geez, you almost wonder, like a Vasilevsky, right, at some point, but I know it's not him. Man, I'll take another hint on this just to save the viewers the pain of watching me.
All right, it's a Canadian-based hockey team that these guys played for.
Okay. Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto. Ooh. Now I'm just trying to think of the Oilers, the Flames. It's funny. Mika Kiprusoff actually came into my mind. Of course, he's not a Canadian, but a guy that had a couple fantastic seasons with the Flames, right?
Yeah.
I look at the Oilers. I don't think there was anybody there that had that much success to be named the winner of the Hart. The Winnipeg, well, you know what? You go to the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuck, American, had some good seasons. Went to him. The Senators. I'm looking at.
Senators are a goalie grave. I'm not. It's not from the Senators. I wish it was, but the Senators have not produced good goalies, unfortunately.
Well, I go to my beloved Leafs, and I'm going, well, you know what? Like, Cujo was great, but there wasn't a Hart. Belfour, very good. No Hart in there. The Canucks, Luongo, we already talked about. Oh man. Well, Carey Price. That's another.
Carey Price.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Carey Price is 2015
Okay.
with Montreal Canadiens. The other goalie was also Montreal Canadiens, and it was back in 2002.
Wait a minute. Jose Theodore.
You got it.
All right.
There it is.
Just going to turn on a light here. Uh,
Absolutely.
oh yeah. No, so many good Canadian goalies, and that was an era, right, where there was so many of them. And I know everybody talks about the Europeans, right, and the Russians, and
Yeah.
producing so many good ones. So, uh,
Yeah.
no, that's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. You got there. It would have taken me a lot more clues. So well done.
I'm
And
disappointed so long. I really am.
oh yeah, no, it's all good. And Jose Theodore, one of those guys that just became a legend, like you say in Montreal. I heard on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, he shows up in Montreal and he's not paying for drinks. So,
Yeah.
a pretty awesome story to see a French speaking Canadian kid like that put on quite a
Oh,
show in La Belle Provence. So, pretty awesome. Pretty
yes.
awesome. All right, next one's so there's 6 goalies
Mhm.
in the NHL history that have 300 or more career penalty minutes.
Oh, okay. I like it. I
Do you
like.
think you can name 6? I can give you some clues along the way too, because
Okay.
I cheated on this. I know when we were chatting before the interview, you said kind of 1990 and was kind of where your expertise was. So I think 2 of them are kind of like slightly before that, but did play into the 90s.
Okay.
And then there's some other guys that were into the 90s as well. So
Well, I
um,
can name a few off the top of my
yeah,
head. I'm
yeah.
pretty comfortable with a few. So definitely Ron Hextall.
Ron Hextall's number 1 with 569 penalty minutes in his
That's
career.
yeah. Billy Smith.
That's number 2 with
Two.
475. Yeah, very good.
Smith. I believe Tom Barrasso. Does he squeak in there at all with?
That's
Or no,
number 3. You've gone 1, 2, and 3 right off the
okay.
bat. I like this. 437 penalty minutes.
Well, I think Tom Barrasso is one. He could be the points leader for a goaltender as well, which because he was a good playmaking. I say playmaking, but a
Yeah,
good puck handling
puck
goaltender.
handling goalie. Yep.
Okay, so Tom Barrasso, yes.
Yeah.
Now this is where it's going to get a little bit more challenging
Yeah.
from 4 to 6.
Yep.
But let me see. Oh, Ed Belfour's got to be in there.
Ed Belfour is number 4.
Okay.
Yeah, almost a perfect list here. Let's see if we can do it. 380 penalty minutes.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
That is a big number. But Ed Belfour, I love these guys because they're all so competitive, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
you
Oh
throw
yeah.
them at any time, and you know you like having them back there, right? They could back you up physically as well. So,
Yeah.
so that's 4. Now the last 2, I gotta think hard here. Did I wonder? I don't know if he would have played enough games or not, but would Ray Emery squeak in there?
He did it. No, no, it
No. Okay.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't enough games to be on the list. Yeah.
You know what? Clint Malarchuk? Nope. Okay.
No.
I'll take a
No.
couple hits on these final 2.
Sure. Yeah. So the final 2, they're actually tied. They both have the same amount. So
Okay.
4 and 5 are kind of interchangeable. But the first one, he would have been most notable for playing with the New York Rangers in his heyday. That's where his prime was. He also had stints with the Philadelphia Flyers and the Florida Panthers.
Ooh. Florida Panthers, Philadelphia Flyers, and the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Um, leave that one with me for a moment.
Sure.
I'll go to the other one if you can get to
Yeah, the other guy is he's still involved in the game in like a management role. And he probably I think his team he'd be most recognizable with is the Phoenix Coyotes.
Phoenix Coyotes. Okay. Involved in a management capacity. When I think of the Coyotes, you think of. Now, I know this guy, another good goaltender at handling the puck. I don't think he'd have a few penalty minutes. I remember him fighting Cam Talbot, like Mike Smith, but I don't think it's going to be Mike Smith.
No, not
No.
Mike
Okay.
Smith.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
little bit before him.
Now, a guy that came into my mind a little bit, but he's a legend. Is there a legend in this group still?
He would be like well known. I don't know if he'd be a legend overall in goalie. He's a very good goalie.
Okay.
You wouldn't mention him in the same breath as like the Hall of Famers for sure.
Okay.
But he a very good goalie that had a long career.
Okay. Sorry. Can you give me those teams once more? That was
Yeah. So one of them, they were around they played for a number of teams, but they would most well known be the Phoenix Coyotes.
okay.
And the other guy is he was Philadelphia. He was well known in for the New York Rangers, and he spent some time with Florida as well.
Florida as well. Okay. Back when he was with the Rangers, would that have been in the 90s?
Yeah, it was kind of around the Messier area.
Oh, wow. Because I know Messi in 94 would be Mike Richter
It
and
wasn't
Matt Neal.
Richter.
And I know
Yeah,
it's not them. Those guys weren't penalty minutes kind of guys. So
yeah,
um, I'm just trying to go back to the Rangers, who are the luckiest guys with goalies: Lundqvist, Shesterkin, Richter.
yeah.
30 years worth of good goalies. Um, oh man, the New York Rangers, the Flyers. Actually, you know what? It's another guy that comes to mind would be I talked about him earlier, and he was a GM with the New York Islanders. Um, was Garth Snow? But
Not
Garth
Garth.
was
No,
there. Eh? He would have some penalty minutes. I could
he
tell you
would for sure. Yeah, he would for
that.
sure.
Um, oh, okay. Can you give me a year that this guy played for the Rangers? Is there a specific year by chance that you?
I didn't actually look that up. I don't. It would have been like late 90s, like 90. I think it was like 96, 97, 98 area.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, hmm. Rangers, Panthers, and
and
Fly.
Flyers. Yeah, well known in the Flyers system as well. American kid.
Huh. Oh, now wait a minute. The guy that played with the Coyotes, did he play elsewhere as well? You
You
said,
did.
yeah.
Yeah,
Fly. Did he play for the Flyers?
I believe so. I'd have to double check, but I think
Okay.
so.
Are these
Yeah.
two Americans that we're talking about? Do you know?
One of them for sure. Let me look it up real
Okay.
quick.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
no, putting me on the spot here.
yeah. Oh man.
No, one of them's Canadian.
One.
The guy from Arizona is a Canadian guy.
If you have his DB up there, could you tell me where he played junior?
I sure can.
That'd be great.
Let me bring it up here.
Thank you.
All right. Junior, he was Toronto Marlboros.
Oh, so this is going back.
This is into the mid '80s is when he played in the OHL.
Wow.
Broke into the NHL in the kind of the late '80s, played into the '90s, and ended up out of the league in 2007.
2007 and played with the Coyotes. Okay. I'm trying to picture those old jerseys.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take a initial of his first, actually his last name. First
B.
initial B.
Last name is B.
Oh man. Okay, initial of his first name. First initial.
S.
S. Sean Burke.
John Burke.
Sean Burke. Vegas
John
football.
Burke. Yeah.
Oh,
310
and he
penalty minutes.
teams. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can give you some of the junior stuff for the other guy if you'd like. The
Sure.
other one surprised me. It's the toughest one on the list for me.
Okay.
I think I would have got Hextall and maybe Billy Smith.
Yeah.
You got the top four within 5 seconds, which was very impressive. But
Thank
this
you.
guy surprised me. So this guy was with the Sioux Greyhounds in the early '80s.
Early.
Broke into the league. The Rangers, it was actually slightly earlier. Sorry, my bad. Played with the Rangers from '85 until '93.
Oh, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Also played with the Florida Panthers, as you said.
Yeah,
Has a very long last name.
yeah,
John Van Beesbrook.
you got it.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah,
I'll take.
John Van Beesbrook. Yeah, that one surprised me a bit. The other guys
Yeah.
I knew had a bit of a reputation as competitors and guys that would spend some time in the box, but he surprised me so.
That surprises me as well. But
Yeah.
Very good one. Very good.
310. Well done. Well done. You rattled off those first four like it was nothing, and much better than I could do.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this one I think you'll get because it came up actually earlier in conversation.
Okay.
What goalie won the Conn Smythe Trophy 2003 despite playing for the losing team?
Jean Sebastian Jaguar. He
You
was
got it.
had a goals against in the ones. I think his save percentage was 936 or
Yeah.
something. And yeah, they lost in Game 7. I remember to the Devils a goal by Mike Rupp. I think he got the winner or overtime winner. I can't recall, but I think it was Mike Rupp with the game winning goal.
I was in elementary school at the time, and I
Oh,
can't speak for most of the world, but
yep.
around like my school and Peterborough area, we had one New Jersey Devils fan in our class. Every single other person in my grade and probably my school were cheering for the Ducks. Like
Oh,
I think it was one of those situations where it was New Jersey and then the odd fan cheering for the Devils and the rest of the world just wanting to see the Ducks win and wanting to see Jaguar win, and what a performance he put on, and
oh,
well
yep,
deserved Conn Smythe Trophy for the losing team.
for sure. It's funny. I mentioned him 2003 in one of the previous answers. So
Yeah,
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 sure.
yeah, yeah. All
Awesome.
right, and then I got one for you. So this is in 2003 and 2004. Um, which goalie set the modern NHL record?
Ryan Boucher.
You got it. Five consecutive. You want to finish off the question for me?
The modern day record for consecutive shutouts.
You got it.
I
Five
remember it.
consecutive shutouts.
That's right. As a member of the Coyotes,
Yeah, and
that,
it was the back half of his career. He came
yep,
over, and I was reading a bit about it when I was researching this. Wasn't even expecting to be a part of that team. They had Sean Burke and they had Zach Burke,
yeah,
and he was kind of another guy in the mix, and got past the ball, and he
yep.
went with it. Do you know how many minutes long the streak was?
Oh, I think
Very impressive.
120, 180. Just give me 1 second here. I'll do my math a little bit.
Yeah.
180. Was it 286 minutes, somewhere like something like that?
It was a bit more because he actually like they counted from the previous goal. So it wasn't just those 5 games. It
Right,
was he got scored on in a second period against Nashville, and
right.
then the rest of the game was clean, and then 5 shutouts, and then part of another game. So
It might
it
have
was
eclipsed.
actually in the 300s.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say it eclipsed three. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, oh, geez, 321.
You're close. You're close.
Uh,
It's 332 minutes and 1 second.
wow, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to answer that before you finish the question.
Yeah, no, that was very, very, very impressive.
Well, I remember
Very.
that, and like we said, Boucher, like good goalie, American-born guy. I remember him, and also a commentator now, right? And
Yeah.
very, very good. But I think that was kind of right before the new NHL took over, where they opened things up a little bit, less clutching and grabbing. And it's not to
Yeah.
take away from the guy; he played obviously fabulous for 5 games. But I think I think that was kind of an indicator that the scoring was really going down at that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was the best I could come up with researching some goalie questions, and well done. I mean, I heard you were a goalie nerd, and I wanted to see if I could stump you, and you certainly lived up to the reputation. So
Well, I
so
know we talked about a friend earlier, Brian, a good friend of mine that I've worked with, and I know you know him as well. And I
yeah,
told him, you said he was the only goalie in NHL history to play without a vowel in his last name, and
that's
I'm
right.
willing to jump off the roof, and didn't think there was any chance I'd get it. And when I told him Miles with a Y, uh, he was at a loss for words. There's no question
Yeah,
about that. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
my passion. I'll always love it, and now watch my little guy do it. It's pretty awesome being on the ice with him and just seeing the improvements day to day with his ability to move and make glove saves, and it's
Fantastic.
a ton of fun with the young kids. I really enjoy the coaching aspect too.
Absolutely. And if it ends up, many, many years into the future, he will never have to pay for a beer league spot as a goalie. I can tell you that. There'll always be room for him, and he'll be the one of the most when you watch a goalie walk into the room, it's the biggest cheer you'll ever see in a pickup game.
Well, don't they have them? I believe they're online now. There's rent a
Yeah,
goalies, and these
yeah,
guys are actually marketing themselves
yeah,
that you need a goalie, call me and pay me, some sort of, small fee, and I'll come out and play. So you're right. I mean, um, nobody likes to shoot on an empty net, regardless of, whether it's the NHL at practice or you're playing some pest control team on a Friday night. That everybody likes to have somebody standing in the net for sure.
for sure, for
Yes.
sure. Well, I really appreciate this. I took up quite a bit of your time. It's been almost an hour and a half. It doesn't feel like that. It flew by, chatting hockey with someone like yourself that's so passionate, obviously, and knows their stuff and
Like,
has their thumb on the team like the Pete's. So I really appreciate you coming on, like I said. And if there's any final words or final words of wisdom you want to throw out, you can do so. And I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's been a blast.
well, no, thank you, Josh. I appreciate it just as much. To be honest with you, I could talk hockey all day, and I could take this one into the wee hours of the morning. To tell you the truth, my friends know that if they start talking goalie trivia, they know to text my wife to say, "Yeah, he's going to be running a little bit late tonight," and I got to give her all kinds of credit because she's put up with it for, I mean, numerous years. But she kind of knows what she signed up for, and that's part of it. But with the Pete's, you look at the World Juniors, right? You hear everybody right now. Is there something wrong with the development of hockey players in Canada? No, there's absolutely nothing wrong. We have so many good young players. The Pete's locally here have some good young players as well. Sometimes things take time. So,
Yep.
take a deep breath. Team Canada is going to come back next year. Gavin McKenna is going to have a year more experience. He was flying all over the ice. Porter Martone, he could be back in the tournament. I think Carter George is eligible to come back as the starter. Seneca, Misa, maybe they find their way to the team. Uh,
Yep.
there's so many good players. So everybody that's panicking right now, settle down. Canada will win a gold medal in the next couple of years. Mark my words. I'm confident in saying that.
Yep.
With the Peterborough Petes, I'm not going to say they're necessarily going to win an OHL championship, but they're going to be competitive.
Yep.
They'll provide some more excitement down at the PMC. Too many good young players to have 2, 3 bad years in a row. So enjoy it, right? It's a fun night out with family, and I always tell people, get out, support your local teams, whether it's in Peterborough here, Saginaw, Kitchener, or Guelph. This league's awesome, and the players are getting better all the time, right? It's a great product to watch for a good price as well, right? So look at back at Seneca and Aqua. He's going to play for the Anaheim Ducks in the next couple of years. So if
Yep.
you want to watch him close, you're going to Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. It's not going to cost you $30. It's going to cost you a lot more. So go out, watch these kids. Go cheer on Porter Martone. Yes, you want the Petes to win, but he's a Peterborough kid. He's a great kid. He's having lots of success. Get down to the PMC, watch these games, enjoy it, and what a great opportunity! You did it. You went with your brothers and your parents the last 25 years, going down and enjoying it. How awesome is that? You got some
Hmm.
great memories there. I don't know if you have kids yet, or in the future you're
I got
probably.
one. Yeah, I got a 7 month old, and I've taken him to two games. He can only make the afternoon games, but
Well,
yeah, I've dragged him out to a couple.
I was eager with my kids as well, and now I
Yeah.
look at people when they have the 7 month old and going, what are they doing? Because it's nothing but chaos. The kids don't know what's going on. They want to, you
Yeah.
know, sleep and this that. And they hear all the noise and whatnot. But I'm starting to come into that, or my kids are starting to come into that age category right now where they enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. They come up in the intermissions to visit me in the broadcast booth, put on the headset, listening to Graham Elliott at the Freak Studio. Listening to the out of town scores and whatnot. And you talk about fun for me. I think my son's whole hockey team came in the other day, and it was absolute chaos. But these kids were so excited to see what that's all about. And I,
Hmm.
everybody knows, all my friends know, I'm a kid at heart as well, and especially when it comes to hockey. So thank you for your time, Josh. I really appreciate this. And
Hmm.
anytime you're looking to chat hockey, just give me a shout, and I'll gladly step on with you again.
Sounds good. All right, awesome. Well, with that, I'll echo what he said. Get out there, support the boys, fans, and if you're tuning into a game on the radio, you'll hear Chris Hardill giving his take as the color commentator for the Pete's, and support those boys either live or on radio. Thanks again, Chris, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
You bet. Thanks, Josh. All the best in 2025.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Chris Hardill for joining me for such a long time, giving up part of your day just to chat hockey. It was an awesome experience. Clearly, a guy that loves the game, that is absolutely suited for the role he's in right now with the Petes, and you can certainly tell that he loves the OHL, loves hockey, and loves the Peterborough Petes. So thank you again for being so generous with your time. I had a blast, and I look forward to seeing you at the rink sometime and maybe chatting again. Well, that's our episode for today. Like I said, when Matt is back in a future week, we will go over current Pete's news that came up and a recap of last week's games, which were the Sioux Greyhounds game and the Erie Otters game. So look forward to that in future weeks. For now, you can catch this episode on all our streaming sites, which is Facebook, YouTube, and if you like to listen to the audio, it's also on Spotify. I will have all that information for you on our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram at 4PTB Pete's sake. And thanks again for listening. As always, go Pete's, go!